In 1 Timothy chapter 3 and verse 15, we read these words, "But if I tarry long, that thou mayest know how thou oughtest to behave thyself in the house of God, which is the church of the living God, the pillar and ground of the truth." I get these emails from what's called the Preacher Boys, and he sent this recently, as you can see, October 17th, the stories I never thought I'd tell. He writes, "When I was about 7, my childhood best friend and I began using his dad's VHS camera to make movies, or at the very least, we gave our all trying to replicate the films we liked and even a few we'd heard about but were never allowed to see. That endeavor sparked a fascination with filmmaking and more broadly storytelling that still stuck with me. Growing up as a church kid, the opportunities to document, film, and tell stories were abundant. I'm going to not read each of this, but anyway, by 7th grade I updated to a little digital pocket cam with a micro SD. Then by the 8th, a slightly better digital camera. By 10th grade, a GoPro and a cheap mic entered the mix. By 11th and 12th, I had a very basic DSLR, and I thought it was amazing, and I was recruiting friends, often to shoot random sketches and video ideas. In this, you'll notice that this young man attends a Christian school. The tools of my trade changed. It was the love of a craft that I had developed within my hyper-religious fundamentalist church. I don't know where he went to church, but it must have been, I know, an independent fundamental Baptist church. My first audience was a captive Sunday morning crowd of 250. And he continued on with this. Fast forward to 2019, sitting in my car, shaking, angry, exhausted. I realized once again after reading yet another news story of abuse how unsafe the religious bubble I had been formed in and by truly was. I recorded an impromptu video expressing a warning to all those who remained that they were unsafe. They needed to leave for their own good and the good of their families. That off-the-cuff video led to a decision to pick up a camera, once again plug in a microphone, begin telling stories. Only this time my goal was no longer to bring people to that childhood church, the one that had been my training ground as a creator. My goal was to warn people about the churches like it that opted to keep predators safe while discarding the vulnerable. Fast forward to 2023. The Preacher Boys podcast has accumulated millions of views and downloads, raising massive amounts of awareness of abuse within, this is it, independent fundamental Baptist churches. The dream I had as a kid of capturing and sharing stories that mattered has been realized in many ways, though I never expected the types of stories I would be telling today. IFB, Independent Fundamental Baptist Churches, ironically were the training ground where I developed the skills I would need to take them down. Sadly, some of the stories he tells are true. I've read them in the online generally. But again, I quote, "But if I tarry long," this is 1 Timothy 3:15, "if I tarry long, that thou mayest know how thou oughtest to behave thyself in the house of God," Paul writing to Timothy, in the house of God, which is the church of the living God, the pillar and ground of the truth. There may be a lot of independent fundamental Baptist churches out there that are allowing this to go on, but God's churches would not allow this. And I'm speaking up. If you're a preacher and you know anything like this, you stop it. God's church is the house of God, the church of the living God, which is the pillar and ground of the truth. Stop this,